Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are very excited to have this time with you as parents and teachers alike to talk about a topic that's very pertinent at the moment. So we are going to have a webinar and a chat with a very special guest that we've invited this evening, basically talking about a few topics in the realm of a digital toolkit for the modern parent and how we can look after our learners and our children online. So without further ado, I'm going to just let you know about our guest speaker. We have a wonderful lady from Be in Touch. She will be giving some more information about her organization. I just can't seem to move my mouse. Let me just try that again. There you go. As I said, we are going to be welcoming our guest speaker, who is a brilliant speaker in terms of keeping our children and our learners safe online, and really that's devoted her career to looking at equipping our parents and teachers alike to be able to keep our learners safe online. So I'm going to hand over to Kate, who is going to take us through some of her tips and tricks with her partner in crime there. So I'm just going to quickly change my screen so that I can share this. And then you should be able to see Kate.
Great. Thank you, Marcel. There were lots of brilliance in there, so we're going to try and make sure that is exactly what we're going to live up to tonight. And it's a quick and dirty session, guys. So yeah, we should be out of here by 7, depending on how many questions we've got for that dinner, glass of wine, whatever it is we're all going to need after this. I'm Kate Farina, and I'm one half of Be in Touch. And we really are an organization. I call myself a mum on a mission. And my other half of the business, Josh Ramsey, we are both parents. He's a parent of young kids, and I've got a teen and a tween. So we are right in the thick of this online parenting, along with all of you guys, no doubt, because that's why you've taken out this precious time to be here tonight. And really, we started this journey because we were trying to grapple with what we needed to do to protect our kids' devices, to help them manage their time online, and to guide them and to help future-proof them. I mean, I think we all just want healthy, functioning, happy teenagers, and eventually, adults that will fly the nest. And what the message really will be about tonight is that online parenting is such a big part now of being a modern parent, and it does feel very overwhelming to a lot of us parents. Where to start, what to do. We all have unique issues and challenges. Some of our kids love gaming, some of our kids love social media. I mean, who doesn't? So there's different issues that come up in the different genres, and what devices do you start your kid out on? What social media should you make decisions about? What are the real age restrictions? All of these things are not well documented in any manual. And, it's been said that our kids, and probably ourselves, we are living through what is really a grand experiment at the moment. Since the last 15 years of the advent of the iPhone, or the smartphone, and everything that's developed since then. And we're not sure how this grand experiment is going to turn out. At the moment, there is a complete lack of rules. There's a lack of regulation. That tide is slowly turning. We've got the US Surgeon General in the States, who himself, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who's himself is a father of teens, and he's putting a lot of resources, and a lot of his team are looking at the research that's coming out, particularly around social media, the impact on teens and the impact on their mental health. So there's a lot going to be happening in the next few months, in the next few years. But right now, we have to parent our children as best we can. And it's really what we're going to take you through tonight is about making more conscious decisions, being armed with more information. So yes, there's a bit of scaremongering, but at Be in Touch, what we like to do is focus on the so what. What is the solution? What can we give you guys in terms of practical next steps? And we hope when you leave tonight, this sort of been time well spent, and you would be leaving with some of these tools and these next steps in your back pocket. So my lovely partner Josh, who just is able to present these things so well, and as himself has come through gaming and other online compulsions and addictions, he's able to really talk to us, whether it's teachers, kids, or parents. And we're going to let him take us through a little bit about what it is we'd like you to know tonight, and basically the introduction and the kind of key steps about being an online parent as a modern parent. So we're going to hand over to Josh. Please use the Q&A. I will be managing that to answer any questions. We'll have a little bit of time at the end to wrap up and have a little bit more, tending to any of those Q&As. And obviously you're welcome to reach out to us after the webinar. So let's head over to Josh.
Apologies, parents, we don't have sound, so I'm just going to quickly fix that for us.
I want to tell you a quick little story. It's about a little boy, age 9, who stumbled across pornography and couldn't stop watching it. He was happy and a loved little guy, awesome family, close friends. He went on to lead his high school student body, and he was earmarked by the students and teachers alike to be the most likely to succeed. Now, after finishing school, this young guy who nobody knew was struggling with compulsive pornography use, moved on out and fast forward into his late 20s after an undergraduate and a postgraduate, as well as a career in entertainment, working as an actor and a stuntman. This young man, full of potential, ended up clinically depressed, sleeping on his parents' couch, compulsively using not only pornography, but alcohol and marijuana as well. Now, fortunately for the little boy in the story and for all of us, is that the story doesn't end there, because that's where it started. He ended up getting help, seeking support, getting counseling support, and after becoming a successful entrepreneur, devoted husband and father, and having beat his addiction to pornography and other substances, spends his time now helping other little boys and girls avoid the devastating impact of early exposure to pornography. And as you may have guessed, yes, that little boy was me. So let's work together to make sure that your kids don't have to go through the pain I experienced due to my early and undiagnosed exposure to pornography and all the behaviors that it set up in my life. Let's fast track them through all of that, and let's jump into why this is so important. The best way to tell this story, other than sharing my own story, is to really show you a little video clip that I want to start with, because it is such a powerful way of telling the story of the difference between what you grew up with, what your parents grew up with, and what your kids this generation are growing up with. It's a teaser trailer from a wonderful documentary called Childhood 2.0. And we're going to watch that documentary, and then we're going to come back and keep going on this journey of keeping our kids safer and saner online. See you in just a second.
A long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas. I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite.
I can just scroll for hours on end.
11 hours a day.
It's been 8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know
that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Pretty much every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about it.
But it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around to school all the time.
At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started.
There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
I'm a little nervous.
The first crime.
Do you think your parents know that this happens?
No.
My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
So there we have it, folks. Online parenting is our new normal. And the first component that we're looking at today is really waking you up, waking parents up with my story, with the story of the children in that video, with statistics that we've seen in South Africa. We have to understand that even as healthy adults, we struggle with this stuff, right? We struggle with the death scroll on our phones. So how much more our kids? So modern parenting, it just is a part of our new parenting skill set where we have to be helping our children navigate the online world. And it is going to be confusing. It is going to be challenging. We're not going to know what to do. We're going to have to ask for help, but that's okay. That's why we're here together looking at this to make sure that we embrace it, to make sure that we're keeping our children safe and sane as they go online. And we got to just deal with this ostrich head in the ground syndrome straight away. It's called Not My Kid, NMK, and we need to get rid of that right now. You need to know what's going on in your child's life. You need to be involved in their lives. And if you think that it is not your kid and you haven't done the least bit of scratching, you need to get out of that ignorance and get involved. And that's what we're here to do. So we're going to help you make sure that every child is protected. And what's important here as well is that your child might be incredibly positive and have things incredibly together, but even good kids make bad choices. Even smart kids get caught in online extortion scams. So we have to assume that something's going on and not assume that it is not going on. So we've got to be proactive about it, and that's what we're going to be doing right here, right now. So we have spoken to over 3,000 South African students, and we've polled them and taken surveys, and this is what we are seeing. This is across the board, and it's not very different to what we're seeing internationally. Very early exposure to or access to social media, very young access to technology. The fact that they're on social media devices or social media platforms and gaming platforms that are set for higher age restrictions, very little parental control in terms of technology oversight. And this is a huge one, devices in bedrooms at night on the vast majority, which is a massive red flag. Tired brains late at night, overstimulated with access to the whole world of internet and strangers that come with it, is just going to set up a whole world of pain for you and for your children. So we need to do something about that. When it comes to pornography exposure, we're seeing that contact with strangers is also on the rise, something that we're very concerned about, and sextortion. You might think that this is a word that would never come into your world, but it is happening more and more frequently. Sextortion is simply your child sending something, a video, a text, an image to someone that says, I'm going to release this content unless you pay me something. That is them being sextorted. And we deal with cases like this all the time with the parents that we help. So it is real and it can help. Sending nudes, because of the high level of pornography exposure that you can see over here, sending nudes or sending nude messages to others or requesting them to send them to me or to a teen is on the rise, and it's normalized, because remember, what your children see on their screens, they take as reality, right? And the more time they spend on their screens, that is what is going to define their behavior, their values, their beliefs, and that's something to really think about. When it comes to online bullying and cyberbullying, really, it is massively, hugely impactful on our children's lives. We know that tweens and teens are very status oriented. They got to be accepted by the group. They got to be part of the tribe. And so if the tribe turns on them, that can be devastating for their mental health. And along with this, as I said in the last slide, stranger contact and inappropriate messaging is just rising more and more and more. This final slide is going to just give you at least the first action step, right? Look at that overwhelming amount of cyberbullying and stranger contact that is happening late at night. Late at night is when uncontrolled devices in unsupervised spaces are being used by tired brains. And that is just a recipe for disaster. Not only is that happening, but of course, teenage brains and tween brains need sleep in order to reboot, refresh, and get ready for the next day. And, sleep is an important part of mental health these days. So it's a no-brainer. If your child has convinced you that they need their device in their bedroom at night, and you remember nothing else from the rest of this webinar, get the device out of your child's bedroom. There's no reason to have it there. Get them a torch, get them an alarm clock. They do not need a device that they can game on or connect to the internet from in their bedrooms. Okay, passion point landed. We're seeing that cyberbullying and stranger contact is happening mainly on social media. And we have specific content and webinars on what we call the terrible trio: Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Interactive games are, a part of impacting behavior with trash talk and the ways in which our children behave online and then translate that into the real world. Of course, WhatsApp is just used everywhere. YouTube as well, comment section on what some parents would think is just a video platform. And of course, Discord, which is a companion app to gaming platforms, and it's a social media in itself. Again, we've got other webinars on this. We just want to touch on them so that you know the lay of the land, and we can help you avoid the big old black hole of the phone. The fact is that, as I said, I have struggled with this. We struggle with this in terms of our own screen time. So how much harder is it for our kids? They get lost in these devices. They get pulled into these devices. And it's not a skill that we were brought up with as parents, right? It's a skill that we need to develop as the first generation of parents that are trying to help our children through this. So we are figuring them out as we go along together. And our children need us, and they need us to be their guides, their parents, not their friends. They need us to make the hard decision, to put them through the discomfort that we know will get them further in the long run. And that's what we are here to upskill at. So let's understand a little bit about these teenage brains and how it is that in my own case, I went from pornography all the way through to, abusing alcohol, abusing marijuana. We're talking about very dire consequences in reality, clashing up against law, all those kind of things that happen in my life. And it started from this poor circuitry in our brain, in my brain. And so let's talk a little bit about that. The prefrontal cortex over here, that is what our teenagers and what we as parents use to make rational decisions, right? We don't just follow our feelings all the time. We know that, we got to save money, we got to pay the bills, we got to do things for the future that we can imagine. And all of that happens in the neocortex. And that's not fully developed until 23 to 25. So your children have a ways to go until they have an adult brain. They're not at 16, not at 13, not at 18. That brain is still developing. And the way in which the teenage brain catalyzes this learning is mainly through a reward hormone called dopamine. Again, don't quote me, I'm simplifying the science here, but basically your teenager has a lower average level of dopamine or satisfaction in their brain than your 8-year-old. Why? So that it drives them out into the world to take risks, right? And if we look at this diagram on my side here, generally, our body is pre-wiring them to get bored, to get sad, mad, and then they got to do something, right? There's all about action. The teenager wants to do things, climb a tree, skateboard, kick something, egg a house, or, they want to do stuff, right? And they need to learn how to take risks, to learn skills that get them rewards, right? So they've got a speech coming up that they're nervous about, right? They've got to talk in front of the class. They feel all of this anxiety. They've got to take the risk of practicing, of getting up on the stage and speaking about it. And as a reward of that, they get this accomplishment, and they develop the skills, confidence, communication, all the things that they need as an adult, right? And this just cycles around. They get bored, they learn how to take a healthy risk, they develop some skills and accomplish something, and then they get that reward of accomplishing it and getting praised and getting status and all the things that we love, right? This is a healthy brain. You keep doing that till you're 25, you finish university or whatever you're doing, and then you head out into the world to become an adult. That's not what's happening when we have this situation going on. This is the short-circuiting of the problem-solving brain. And now what we are developing is the problem avoidant brain. So as soon as I get bad, mad, sad, that boredom state, that low dopamine, I need to do something to change, right? What do? Instead of taking that risk, I might think about not going to the party to study for the maths test. Now that's a risk. I might get rejected. Instead of doing that, instead of putting myself through risking something to develop a skill and get a reward, I just pick up this phone, open YouTube, go onto TikTok, watch some porn, play some games, and I get a dopamine hit and I get a quick reward. And that cycle of living between discomfort or boredom and a quick reward is what we call an addiction cycle. And this is the neural priming, the problem avoidant behavior, the habit that you are letting your child, if you're not doing anything about it, you're letting it, you're aiding, you're either aiding or stopping. There's no middle ground here, okay? And if your child is developing this habit of discomfort, quick reward, they're going to be like me, where the older they get better rewards. Oh my gosh, smoking a joint feels amazing. Cocaine feels amazing. Alcohol feels amazing. And there, the reward is even greater. Of course, this cycle just goes on, and we don't develop any skills, we don't develop any confidence, we don't develop any value, we don't develop the ability to provide for ourselves or our families. We end up like me in your late 20s, depressed, sitting on the couch because you can't really achieve anything. You're struggling to fit in. And then, of course, it's just on a road to nowhere. So this is a massively, massively important thing that we have to be dealing with. And it's so important, in fact, that the Surgeon General in the US has, released very, very strong worded recommendations around the safety component of social media. He is looking to protect children from this place that is setting them up with this, poorly set up brains and poor decision-making potential. And remember that if you're not fighting for your kids, you got to think about who else is fighting for your kids. Who, you might ask? Big tech. Big tech is spending millions and millions of dollars every year on making devices, apps, and games irresistible to your children. They are using every persuasive mechanic that they can get their hands on to make your child engaged and trapped into their device, because engagement means advertising, advertising means money, money means shareholder returns, which is what they are focused on. They are not psychologists. They're not emotional development experts. They're not pediatricians. They are developers. They are businesses. They are capitalists looking to make return. So you cannot rely on their opinion on the devices and platforms that they use. So I want to show you some of the coverage that has come out of the States to give you a picture that it's not just me talking about this, not just Kate, it's not just South Africans that are concerned. The very nation that is leading the development of the platforms that we are seeing our children struggling with, they are the ones talking about this too. So let's watch that, and I'll be back in just a second.
Been covering mental health challenges that teens face, and we're just seeing how many teens are affected by this crisis.
Yeah, according to a startling CDC report, 42% of high schoolers have said that they feel persistently sad or hopeless. Our Morning News Now anchor Savannah Sellers is covering this issue in a new NBC News Now special called Teens Under Pressure, Mental Health and Social Media. That is airing tonight, and Morning News Now anchor Savannah Sellers joins us now on set.
You guys are the Morning News Now anchors right now.
It is good to have you back and on such an important topic. What did you find in your reporting?
Yeah, it's so good to see you guys. Thank you so much, and so good to see you all at home. So there is so much going on with teens right now. Honestly, I think it's just harder to grow up now. If you think about social media, it's just this constant access to information. A lot of it's hurtful. It's body image issues. It's your friends hanging out without you. I heard FOMO a lot in reporting this as an issue that teens really say does impact their mental health. And then, of course, there are just the normal stresses that we all know about, the pandemic, climate change, and a big thing for a lot of these teens, they told me they actually think about every day, is the possibility of a school shooting. They go to school worried about that, and they have a really hard time with it. All of that sort of is culminating in that number that you said, 42% of teens saying that they feel persistently hopeless. Here's what's kind of really scary, though. Girls are faring much worse. 57% of girls say that same number there, persistent feelings of sadness, of hopelessness. And then the really concerning thing there is that sexual violence is spiking. So young girls are also dealing with that. They're dealing with this sort of misogynistic content that's online that they say impacts the boys that they interact with all the time. It's just a confluence of a lot of really concerning factors.
There's so many things, and things that, as a kid, I certainly didn't have to deal with it all, because there was a lot of parts of my life where I could disconnect, where I had no idea what my friends were doing, and that was probably for the best.
No question.
What is it teens are telling you, especially when it comes to what might be a solution or some possible ways to improve things?
Yeah, really important question. Of course, when we should be talking about, when we're talking about what's wrong. One of the biggest things is what we all know, talking about it. They want to feel connected to people. The other really important thing is they want a trusted adult in their life. So if you're an adult listening to this, if you know a teen, please try to connect with them and listen to what they said just about what can be done in their schools.
I feel like if there were more school counselors, they'd be able to focus on a group of students rather than having so many students to look after. And then same thing with the social workers in schools.
Certainly have overworked teachers. And when we don't have that opportunity to build that bond, then that chance to see that, oh, that student hasn't been really acting their normal self, their usual self, there's not really that opportunity to just notice a child, I want to say, because there's just so much noise around.
The really encouraging thing that I did hear in that conversation is that for a couple of the students that do have a strong relationship with their school counselor, they said that it has made all the difference in the world. There's this program that is being unveiled right now. Money is going directly into schools from the Department of Education, from the Biden administration, that is going to put resources actually physically within the walls of schools. So it's not something that has to be sought out after school or by parents. Hopefully that goes to making more counselors available to students, because of course that's the big problem within our schools.
I imagine any parent watching this and processing it is saying, okay, but there's so much going on. How on earth do we make sure that our kids are okay? How do we help them? And you actually spoke to the education secretary and the Surgeon General. Did they have any advice on how to deal with these growing problems?
Yeah, so they point to the CDC in terms of advice as far as what should be done, because within this report that had those really startling stats, there were also some things that you can do. Trusted adult, as we've been talking about, is one of the big ones. Resources in schools, which this new funding, $188 million, is going to be helpful for. But they really were super strong about social media and the concern, especially the Surgeon General. He said that he is not sure when he will let his own kids get social media. It certainly will not be until at least some years into high school, which means at least 14, even though social media is available technically. When you're 13 or older is when you can sign up for things like Snapchat. He said it has to go beyond warnings, though, because I asked, look, I mean, you're the Surgeon General. You've issued a warning, because he has done that. Can it go beyond that? Will it go beyond that? And he said, you know what, it's got to, because if you think about it, it's these companies. You're matching the brain of a child up against a company whose whole job and whose whole algorithm is to make you addicted. Listen to a little bit more of what he had to say.
Well, I think we have to go beyond warnings. I think the data has been telling us more and more clearly that there are significant numbers of kids who are harmed by their use of social media. I think what we need are safety standards and requirements around data transparency, and those actually have to be enforced. We need age-based regulations that also need to be enforced.
there actually is a lot of this conversation going on Capitol Hill right now. It remains to be seen what will come out of that, but we will, of course, keep reporting on it.
All right, Savannah, so glad you're taking a deep dive into this. Thank you so much. You can catch Teens Under Pressure, Mental Health and Social Media tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That is right here on NBC.
Okay, guys, so there is a slow-moving machine in the form of regulation, even in South Africa, with our contacts that we have here in the Media Matters side of thing that are watching content in South Africa. But it is a far too slow machine to help your child tomorrow, to help your child in the next week. So it's up to us as parents. There is a fantastic balance that has to be drawn between schools and parents. And we have to say that regardless of what schools are doing, they are there at the end of the day to educate and mentor. Parents, we are there to protect and guide, right? We are the ones that, as that trusted adult that was just stressed in that interview, which is one of the most important safety parameters that your child needs, is that we as parents have to be there as a trusted adult. We are seeing schools pick up a lot of this their part in holding the digital safety net. So we have to be there with them to make sure that we are catching this generation that is falling between parents and teachers, pointing at each other, saying that you got to do this because I don't know how to do it. We got to do it. We got to do what is within our control to do to keep our kids safe. So that's where we're heading. We're going to talk a little bit more about the parameters around the aspects of what we can impact, and then we're going to get into our 8 steps of digital parenting. So the fact is that screens are everywhere. The first generation of questions that parents brought to us was how much screen time, right? How much screen time is okay? And there was 10 minutes per year per child. You know, if a 2-year-old can do 20 minutes, a 6-year-old can do 60 minutes. That is all out of the picture now, right? Screens are so ubiquitous. They're such a part of our lives. Our children are learning on them at school. They're coming home to do homework. So more important than how much, and it's not a simple solution of rule of thumb, it's what are they watching? It's when are they watching it? What time in the day? Where are they watching it? Are they watching it with other people? With who are they watching it, right? What is the content on it? So there's a much more nuanced approach that we have to take to our kids and screens. At the end of the day, they do not have the capacity to set boundaries, right? That is one of the most important aspects of this trusted parental role, is that not only are you there when they mess up, which they will, because that's just life. You know, it's not a matter of if they have a problem, it's when they have a problem. So we got to help them set boundaries. And we do that by listening, by getting curious about what's going on in their lives. It's very important that when you choose to set those boundaries, you do not do it in the moment of crossing the boundary. A boundary is only useful if you've set it before the moment it gets crossed, right? When it gets crossed, you're just carrying out an action. You're like, okay, well, you knew what the boundary was. You know what the action or consequence was. So now this is happening. We can't react emotionally and then make a boundary in the moment of, pain or trauma. So very important there. Choosing the time and the place, of course, asking for solutions, right? Empowering our kids to think through this. At the end of the day, if you raise your child in a, incredibly rule-based home, what's going to happen when they leave home and those rules disappear overnight? So we're really looking at critical thinking, getting them to reflect on their decision, getting them to reflect on the consequences of, breaking these boundaries. And ideally creating a joint plan, right, where you're in it together. So you can be that trusted adult, that safe place, at the same time as being that person that is setting the boundaries in your home, right? Very, very, very important. So with that said, we got to make sure that you're checking the source, right? You're checking what's coming into your child's life, whether it's the apps and the games. You're not just putting your thumbprint or giving your password away to your child to go and do what they will. You're not saying, I don't understand this. Make the time to understand. Schedule the time once a week that your kids can bring apps and games to you and you can discuss it. Like, if you don't make the time, you'll never find the time, right? So we're going to be chatting into a whole bunch of aspects of this. Whether it's parental filters, making sure that we have family values, helping them understand the skills that they need and the risks that are at play with these platforms. So all of that, where do we start? What do we do with all of that? That's why we've got the 8 steps to family digital well-being, the 8 steps to digital parenting. Remember, you are not your child's friend. You are their parent. And each one of the steps that we're going to cover now are going to help you keep your child safer and saner. So let's jump straight in. Number one, being mindful of screen time. Just being aware that you watch the sugar intake of your kids, you watch the seatbelts when they get in the car. Now you got to be aware of screen time. We have 24 hours in a day, and they got to fit a whole bunch of stuff in. Help them think through it. Help them think through what the cost of spending 3 hours gaming is. Are they seeing their friends? Are they exercising? Are they sleeping enough? Nothing is for free. There's always a cost, and screen time has what we call an opportunity cost. So they need to be balancing their wheel of life so they can travel very far on a solid wheel or daily wheel. Number two, creating family tech rules. So we're aware of it. Now we got to create some boundaries. You know, the whole family needs to be in this, right? You struggle with it. I struggle with it. Your kids are struggling with it. So we can set up obviously different levels of rules for different ages, but we want to get clear on what are the non-negotiables around screen use. Myself, I made one resolution this year: no sleeping in my bed, or no being in my bed with my phone. Yes, I've slipped a couple of times, but man, it's made a massive difference in my life. Just that one rule. So we want to be very clear on what the family tech rules, agreeing those boundaries. What do we do with time limits, spending money online, no-go zones, toilets, bedrooms, I'd say are a great start. Device settings, making sure that they're locked down and that kids can't access or use devices that don't have parental controls. What happens if strangers arrive? What's the protocol online? You know, what happens if a stranger contacts them? Which we're seeing vast majority of kids have been contacted by a stranger online. Okay, set up some rewards. You know, life is full of rewards. So why don't you use that to really dig to a much deeper level of connection with your kids around the consequences and rewards. So how do you do that? Jump onto our resource page. We've got a family tech rules template that you can use with your family. What do we like? What don't we like? What can we do? What can't we do? What happens if, you know, get these set up, stick it on the fridge, hold each other accountable, and try and make it a little bit fun. Schedule a weekly moment to check in on the calendar. Screen check-ins. How are we doing? Have we seen something crazy? Have we seen something awesome? You know, some little meme that we want to share with the family. We've got to be, including this technology component of our lives instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Bring it out. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that we are using it for our advantage, right? Number three, kids don't do what you say. They do what you do. Okay? And we got to be modeling those good digital habits. We got to be setting the example of being conscious of what we're watching, when we're watching it, where and how much, because that's what our children are going to follow most of all. An easy way to think about this in terms of your screen time is categorizing it two things. Is it educational or is it entertainment? And even if you're with your child, just tell your child that you are doing something for work, for example. You know, they might just think you're on Snapchat or whatever they think. So you need to talk to them about what you're using your technology for. Try and include them in that age appropriately, of course. Number four, absolutely huge, installing parental controls. Every single device that your child has needs to have some form of parental control. Our perspective is that if you are paying for it, somebody is accountable to you, you're going to get a higher level of service, high level of efficiency. So we've got two that we recommend. We'll jump into that in a little bit. But we have to have parental controls on our devices, filtering content that's coming in, filtering, people that are trying to get in touch with them. And this will be an amazing way to protect our children. We have to be using, these digital sensors to track our children in the digital landscapes that they are on. If finances are an issue in your family, Screen Time for Apple and Google Family Link for Android are as good as you'll get, right? They are a very good start, but we really think you should invest in, paid for services that are at a high level of protection, like Bark, which is great for social media, older kids that have a SIM card, that have multiple social media accounts, or Griffin, which is going to be a device that sits in your home and protects your whole home from anything that's coming in from the outside. So you've got to have those parental controls in place. The best time to do it is today. The next best time is tomorrow. So number five, understanding these age restrictions. Super, super important. And fortunately, there is an organization called Common Sense Media that has done the vast majority of heavy lifting for you. They are an incredible resource, and so much so, in fact, that I'm going to give you a live demo. So let's jump across there in just a second. And I want to show you how Common Sense Media can be used to give you the real age restrictions to apps, to games, to books, to devices, all sorts of stuff. Let's jump across there and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so here we are at commonsensemedia.org, and it is incredible. Look up here on this top tab. We've got movies, TVs, books, games, podcasts, apps, YouTube, parent tips and FAQs, all sorts of resources for a parent. Look at this. You can set the age of your child and sign in and get a personalized recommendation. What do we got? Something that's very popular these days, GTA 5. Let's go look at that. Oh, here it comes up. Grand Theft Auto 5, a very popular game. Came out 2022. What is in that game? Our kids want access. Oh, hold on. Common Sense Media says it's 18 plus. Interesting. Okay, I wonder why. Scroll down, we can see all the themes that are in this game. Oh, we can watch videos. We can see what is going on inside the game. We can see what 926 parents say about it. We can see what 1,400 kids say about it, right? Everything that you need to know right here. Incredible, incredible resource. For those of you that are educators yourselves or want to get your school involved in really some easy resources, have a look up here, top tab, a little button for educators. You click on that and here you go, a full curriculum for a school to implement to protect their children. An incredible resource, commonsensemedia.org. Check it out. It will change the game for your number 5 rule, which is understanding age restrictions. Now we're going to jump back across to number 6. Changing settings. The default is to take as much data from you as possible, including from your children. So we have to be changing default settings for phones, tablets, computers, gaming consoles, apps, TVs, all sorts. There's an incredible resource called Bark-O-Matic. That's bark-o-matic.com, which is an incredible resource that you can use. You plug in what device you have, what apps you have, and it'll give you a customized breakdown on all the settings that need to get changed. You might have realized that Bark is the same company that does the other parental filter that we recommend. It's an incredible resource, bark-o-matic.com, an incredible resource for changing settings, which is our number 6 tip. Number 7, knowing passwords and checking up. So this falls into a category of being involved, right? You got to be involved. You got to be, if you got an inkling that your child has done something terrible. I did it. I was stealing things from CNA when I was a kid, which was a shop. My mom knew about it. She had an inkling. She checked my bag. She saw the stash, and we had a great conversation as a 10-year-old and learned a valuable lesson. But the point is that there's a digital version of that you got to be doing too, right? You got to understand that there is no privacy online. So it's not an invasion of privacy for you to know your child's passwords or to check in on their social media or check in on their WhatsApp or check in on their emails in an appropriate way, in a consensual way, ideally, where you've spoken to your child and you're going to say, listen, I'm aware of stuff that you might not see that might be of concern. So that's why this is important. So staying connected to your kids, helping them understand that you are loaning devices with certain strings attached. There's no your device. If the child says my phone, what's the phone that I'm lending you until you can afford to buy one for yourself? Okay, so we got to be talking, checking in with our kids. As was said in that interview, a trusted adult. You got to be that trusted adult. Number 8, our final tip, join your child's online world, right? They don't have this online, offline like we do. Come home, turn off the phone, get offline, read a book. They live, it's one world for them. So ask them about their digital day. Did you see something really funny today? Normalize your questioning. Then don't only question when you're concerned, right? Because then it's going to put up their red flags like, oh, mom's trying to take away my device, which is absolutely huge. One of the number 1 reasons kids tell us that they don't disclose exposure to pornography or stranger contact or whatever to their parents, they say, I don't want to get my phone taken away. Remember, their phone is their lifeline. Their phone is their connection to their friends, to their status, to their groups, to what's happening in the world, to being in the know, right? They don't arrive at school and they don't know about some viral trend, because then they don't know, and then they're not in the cool club, and then they get rejected. So they're not going to tell you about stuff if they know that the first thing you're going to do is take away the device. Even if you have to take away the device, you need to help them understand that you're going to give it back. You're going to take it away for a couple of days. You're going to take it away for a week, whatever your tech rule is in your home, that when they mess up, there's a consequence. But they need to know that it's not forever, so that they will tell you. Okay. So ask them about their digital day, normalize looking at fun memes together, play TV games with your kid age appropriately. You know, when the thumbs are moving, the tongues are waggling. My niece lives over in Canada, so that's the way that we connect. We play a little bit of Minecraft online. So number 8 is join your child's online world. So guys, out of all those tips and all the things we've spoken about, here are our top 5. Our top 5 tech tips. Get those family rules set up, right? Install those parental filters. Change default settings. Get devices out of bedrooms. Get devices out of bedrooms. Today. Get devices out of bedrooms. Today. Check in. Keep checking up and keep talking to your child, right? It is all based on the relationship that you have with them. Okay. It is going to get hard. It's a when. It's not an if. But remember, you're not your child's best friend. You're there to be their parent. They will thank you in the long run when you keep them safer and saner. I promise you that. I wish that my parents had been there or known what I was going through. It had to escalate to the point where it was obvious. Don't wait till it's obvious. Get curious. Get involved. Ask questions. Be in the know. We're going to help you do that. Check out beintouch.org.za. We've got tons of free resources. Cell phone contract, how to talk to your child about pornography, choosing parental controls that are right for your family, and a whole bunch more. Be conscious. Start bringing in products to your home that are about consciousness around tech use. Parental controls are a great start. Charging stations. All the devices go to bed in the lounge at night. Alarm clocks, if that's why your kids say that they need their phone. Torches, whatever. We've got a whole shop that got a bunch of good options. And then, of course, be alerted. Parental controls are your primary defense. One of your, well, not your primary, but one of your best defenses. Your relationship is your primary defense. But Bark, as I said, that's great for social media, for older kids that have access to multiple social media accounts, can access them from multiple devices that you don't control. And Bark will send you notifications when it sees something of concern. It's a doggy barking. And what's great is that they'll send you the category of concern, whether it's self-image, drugs, pornography, violence, and it'll also send you some tips on what you can do about it. And then, of course, Griffin, which is basically that safety net over your entire home, all the devices, smart TVs, smart kettles, microwaves, all the rest. So use one of those two. Be empowered. Kate is a mom on a mission. She really is doing the work of 100 moms, and we're just so grateful to have what she's doing. Anyway, can't toot her horn too much, I'll get in trouble. But the point is that she's available. She has helped countless parents and families with the device advice sessions that she uses. Get on a phone call with her, talk to her about what you're struggling with, get a customized solution for your family, and get going on it. We've got all these relationships set up, but we can't use them, relationships with Bark, with Griffin, all these different things, if you don't take the first step. So get hold of Kate, schedule a device advice session, and take the first step. Even if you need a bit of hand helping, that's what she's here to do. And of course, like, follow, and share our content online. We're here to keep you inspired, help you have a sense of humor around this whole thing. Sign up for our newsletter. That is going to be an incredible way. I mean, you're in the webinar, so we're going to be sharing it with you anyway. But share it with other parents. Remember, your child is only as safe as the least informed parent in your parenting circle. Any adult that has access to your child that doesn't know what you're talking about, that we've talked about right now, needs to get the information. And of course, we're here to help you be in touch. So be in touch with us. Here's Kate's contact details. Reach out to her, ask for help, get the help that you need, and let's make sure that your children are safer and saner online. Thank you so much.
Right, guys, I'm sure that you're all feeling a little bit, wow, okay, it's only Monday night, and I'm so glad that so many of us managed to sit through to the very end. We've had some lovely questions coming up on the Q&A, and I'm very happy to talk to any more that you guys might want to post. You're also very welcome to send them through to me, to kate@beintouch.org.za after the webinar or in the course of the week, and I'll be happy to respond to those and to guide you towards the resources or the tools that you might be looking at. Yeah, Marcel, I'm not sure if you've had any more questions come through on your side, if there's any more that we can possibly deal with, any that are being put up on the Q&A section. We've had one on safety, a very, very good one, because this is this big issue about checking in and checking up with your kids. And yeah, just the point that I wanted to make then, add to what Josh said, is that this concept of the right of children to privacy relates to their data being used by third parties for marketing and for profit and all the rest of it. It is not a concept or a right of privacy vis-a-vis or against their parents. So this is something that you really need to look at in terms of how you have your discussions with your kids and your family tech rules. How do they use the devices that you have loaned to them, and what are the boundaries around that and the consequences? And part of that is either physically checking up on what's happening on those devices or using sophisticated parental controls that can give you the alerts that you need to know about what is going on in their world. Because what you just don't want to be in is that position where you know about it too late to actually help them. Marcel, I don't know if there's any more questions. There is going to be a recording. That was one of the questions going to be put up on the Caro YouTube channel. And yeah, I think that if there's no more Q&A that are going to come up here, I just want to say to all of you, thank you very much for being such concerned and committed parents that you took the time out to be here tonight. I think you heard from Josh. First step, devices out of bedrooms at night. It's good for us too. Those devices don't need to sleep next to us. Get the alarm clock sorted out. And I think go and have a wonderful evening. Go and hug your children. They're precious. They're worth it, and that's why we're going to be doing what we are doing. Going to go forward on this online parenting journey and start with the baby steps that we're able to do.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kate. I think there was a lot of information that a lot of parents are chewing on at this moment. I have shared Kate's email address if you'd like to contact her. We also have, again, as Curo, we really are here for you as parents, so you're more than welcome to reach out to your local school if you'd like to get the recording, just a link on that. We are here to help and support. But yeah, if there aren't any other questions, have a wonderful evening further. Thank you again, Kate, Farina, and we really are excited to have you join us again next term for the next webinar, and we'll definitely communicate that to our parents. Have a wonderful evening further. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.